going to show you how to make the stuffed koala toy from Kreative Kiwi's Kiwi and Koala set, and for that I'm going to be using my 5x7 hoop, 2 layers of wash away stabiliser, a selection of threads, my squizzers, some hemostats, needle and thread, some pins, masking tape, and I've got my fabrics and batting cut to size. Got some stuffing here as well. Also I'm using some solvay topper, and this is going to stop my embroidery thread sinking into my fabric because it's got a pile to it when I stitch all the facial details. Underneath this video in the description there's lots of useful information for you and links including to where I get my supplies, etc. And there's also a discount code if you want to use sim threads, so well worth having. And that code will last until the 8th of February next year, and you can use it as often as you like. You're going to start by hooping your 2 layers of wash away stabiliser. And then I like to pin around the top edge of my embroidery hoop to stop my stabiliser being dragged down between the two frame pieces. So I take a pin, and you can use any pins you like, it doesn't have to be anything special, as long as they've got a head that it will work. Push it, rest your pin on the top of the hoop, push it through and bring it back round. And you're going to do that on all the edges. Load your file into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 1, and that's going to give you your fabric placement outline. Place your fabric over the outline and then tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 2 to secure it. Next is round number 3, and that's going to stitch the belly outline. Place your belly fabric over the outline here and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 4 to secure it. You're now going to trim up the excess fabric from around the belly. You're now going to pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 5, and that's going to do the satin stitching around the edge of the belly here. So load whichever colour thread you want into your machine first. Change your thread to a colour that matches your fur, and then you're going to stitch round number 6, and that's going to do the neck. I'm going to give you a little tip here. If, like me, you didn't trim back close enough to the stitch line when you trimmed away the excess around the belly, and you've got some little bits of thread showing through, get yourself a set of Sharpie pens. They're absolutely invaluable. Choose the colour closest to your fabric, or should I say to your thread, and then just colour it in, and it will all disappear. And because they're permanent markers, they're not going to wash out either. On the larger sizes, you've got you can add the wording as well, so you would stitch that next. As this is a 5x7, there is no wording because it's too small an area to put any on, so we haven't got that in this case. So next we're going to stitch round number 7, and that's going to do the placement outline for the nose. Place your fabric for the nose over the outline, and I'm using really tiny scraps here. As you can see, I don't waste anything if I can help it. So place it over the outline and then tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 8 to secure it. You're now going to trim away the excess from around the nose. You're now going to pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 9, and that's going to zigzag around the edge of the fabric. Before I go any further, I want to place my solvay over the head. Now this is a like a plastic water-soluble stabilizer, and it stops your embroidery thread from sinking into the pile. Place it over the top and then tape it in place. Load your white thread into your machine and then stitch round number 10, and that's going to do the whites of the eyes and the ears. Next is the colour of the eyes, so change your thread to whichever colour you want for that, and then you're going to stitch round number 11. Load your black thread into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 12, and that's going to do the black of the eyes and the satin stitch around the nose. Now that all the facial features are stitched, I'm going to remove the solvay. I've removed the tape already. I'm just going to tear this off. You're now going to place your backing fabric over your bear, and you want the right side down. And then you're going to tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 13, and that's going to secure your backing fabric. It's also going to leave a gap that's going to allow you to turn it out the right way as well. We're now going to free your work from the hoop. So I've removed all pins and tape, and we're going to trim up all the way around the edge, and we're going to leave about 1/4 of an inch, except here where the gap is. Here we're going to leave like a flap, and I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to cut towards the stitching. I'm going to make sure that I don't actually cut the stitching, and I'm going to do that each side of the opening. Okay. And then I'm going to trim around the edge. I'll tidy it up again in a minute. Something else I'm going to do, where there's a corner that goes inwards, I'm just going to snip up to the stitch line so that it turns easily. Be careful not to cut your stitching though. Okay, cut that away. Next we're going to remove all the stabiliser from here, so make a little hole in it and then just trim around the edge of the stitch line. Just be careful not to cut your fabric, of course, and not to cut your stitches. Next comes the fun part where we've got to turn it inside out, and that's what I'm going to use these hemostats for, because I can get hold of the fabric and pull, and they lock, so they're a really handy tool to have. And I've got various other tools that I use just to smooth it out inside as well, but it's a case of I use whatever I need to. So we need to turn this out the right way, and first off I'm going to start by trying to poke that through. I've got part of the ear here. I'm just going to clip on these hemostat forceps and gently pull this out the right way. And it's never going to go smoothly on camera, I can guarantee it. Okay, so that's our deflated koala turned out the right way. Next we're going to stuff him, and I'm going to be using these as well so that I can poke it right inside all the places that it needs to be. I think that Build-A-Bear has really got a good idea with their equipment. with these two flaps, I'm just going to fold them back on themselves. And it's a bit fiddly, I'm afraid. And I'm going to do the same with the other one. Leaves us a really nice edge then to sew up by hand, and it only takes a few minutes by hand anyway, so it's not going to take us long. Okay, so I'm going to get my needle and thread, and I've made a ginormous knot on the end so that it's not going to come out. And that's going to be all hidden underneath, and I'm just going to do an overstitch all the way up. Very good at hand sewing, I'm afraid. And there's our koala finished. I hope you enjoyed this stitch along. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new videos as they're published. Please pop along to Kreative Kiwi's Facebook group. There's lots of ideas and inspiration and help there for everybody. And thank you very much for joining me.